Listen, laugh, and learn with Sacha and Ish as they share their experiences, thoughts, and tips to build skills that are not so average and a career that's not so ordinary. This is the Not So Breakfast Show.
All right, welcome to the Not So Breakfast Show today, the podcast for leadership and career development. And today we're talking about Upside Youth Mentoring in Aotearoa. And we have got Jenny Horst here, who is the CEO of that charity. And just going through her LinkedIn, has been the CEO of lots of things and has actually been in senior leadership for around 17 years, from everything from tier funds through to the parenting place, which I've got some connection with. Like, my girls are great girls, and I think it's full credit to the parenting place and all of the trainings that we went to, and we sponsor a child through tier fund. So I feel that this is kind of like complete circle around, and I feel like I've been following your life slightly in the background.
Stalker.
That is very cool. I think closely connected in New Zealand, aren't we? It's about a conversation away to finding the connection point. So.
Absolutely. And then we just jumped on before with Sacha, who we're going to welcome to the show. And you've got a connection as well, Sacha.
Well, as soon as you said that Jenny was coming to the show, of course, I looked her up and went, oh, Jenny, we go way back. Only Jenny didn't know that, because when I was a teenager, I used to go and listen to Jenny do amazing things in bands. So I was a groupie.
It's hilarious. And apparently I was cool back then. So
very, very cool. Yes. Cool then, cool now.
It's hilarious.
Let's kind of get into the reason that we're here on the show today. We are talking about the charity, which is Upside Youth Mentoring, and interested in having a chat around that, how it's been founded and everything, but also maybe your journey into why you've chosen this charity and your CEO journey to get to that point. But do you want to give us a little bit of background and understanding of what the charity actually is and what they do?
Yeah, brilliant. And thanks first and foremost for the opportunity to share a bit of this. It's wonderful to share what I think is incredibly good news with people. And our organisation is engaging some incredible human beings. And so telling their stories as young people or mentors is enormously rewarding. And I get the privilege of doing that in my role, which is pretty special. So in a nutshell, Upside Youth Mentoring is about life-changing relationships for young people who've had a tough start in life. And you asked, Ish, how did it start? Well, it was back in 2006. Unusual beginnings, actually. Chatham Islands. There was a young boy who was 13 years old. He robbed the only dairy on the island at knife point, and unfortunately for him got shipped off to a residential home in Auckland to be with other young people just like himself, which may not be particularly helpful. But in this case, he had a wee guardian angel. There was a guy put in charge of his well-being and development who was named John Newman. He was the guy, one of the founders of the Starship Hospital, as it happens. But John knew the power of relationship to bring change in people's life. And so he drew in his good friend, Bill Grayson, and said, would you just journey with this kid for a little bit? Catch up with him as often as you can. So Bill hung out with this young boy every week and took him fishing and surf lifesaving and things like that. And over the course of 6 months, this kid's life just changed so dramatically. And he was back in front of the court seeking dispensation, and the judge was just blown away by this kid changing from being withdrawn and, mumbling to confidently speaking about himself and his future. And he was released without any conviction, which was really lovely, and went on to become a fisherman and have a wonderful life, which was brilliant. But that was the catalyst, because Bill was dancing for joy that this young man that he'd invested into had really changed his life trajectory. But then John said to him, hey, Bill, I've got 500 more young people like this. I need your help, mate. And so Bill brought in a friend of his, a family friend, Dave Robertson, amazing young man who gathered 12 of his mates, and they started wrapping around other young people that just needed an extra positive role model in their life. Kids that had had a tough start in life, the odds stacked against them. And these days, look, the journey we've had at Upside is we're working with those kids that are really amazing young people, have so much potential, but have had some really tough things happen to them. They've experienced abuse, neglect maybe. They might be feeling suicidal potentially, even at this young age, 9 to 13. Some of the girls are self-harming. They're just things that set them up for fairly poor life outcomes without some kind of early intervention. And that's what we're all about.
Yeah, I mean, the intervention of charities like this is life-changing. Like we had a friend that their daughter went through the self-harm journey, and they ended up getting partnered up with a girl called Hope, and that kind of counselling service that was very much hands-on, and you're there all the time. But it's just game changer, right intervention, right time, and then just having something like this that really probably speaks into the lives of kids that, they may not be at that end yet, but maybe we can step in there and do something to stop that from actually happening along the way.
That's the astounding thing about it. It's not rocket science. Look, I'm firmly of the belief that it's relationships that change people. And the research fortunately backs that up. So that's my experience. That's what the research is telling us. In fact, that you get a good person, a positive role model, an extra affirming adult in a young person's life that may be a little vulnerable, and good things happen. And the beauty of our program, Ish, is that these aren't trained social workers that are walking alongside these young people. And that's part of the reason we're talking today, is that the power of these life-changing relationships is actually coming from volunteers. It's just big-hearted people like yourself and those that are listening today that have said, hey, I want to see what I can do just simply by turning up consistently. And what it is about in practice, it's a couple of hours a week for a whole year. So that longevity is really important. The consistency is really important every week. But it's not the heavy counselling. It's not, don't have to be an expert in all things to do with life. You might go for a walk with a dog. You might bake a cake. You might kick a ball around the park. It's just doing life together. And what we call holding space with that young person, just turning up, being there, listening, laughing, caring, asking some open-ended questions sometimes when the moment's right, and trust builds across that year in a way that delivers quite profound outcomes.
Yeah. I watched the clip that was on Breakfast between the two girls, and it was quite interesting even hearing their story, because I think at the start, the mentor, she wasn't even sure that the girl she'd been paired up with even liked her. But over time, it was just the hanging out, as simple as that. It was a walk, it was a talk, it was going out for a coffee. And then over time, suddenly there was just an opportunity where the conversation just slightly went to the next level, and that's where it kind of started. But if you are in that mentor role, what sort of training or resources do you have to maybe prepare people for the types of conversations that they may end up having with a young person?
Oh, that's a great question. We invest quite a lot into that mentoring journey for the mentor, supporting them and walking alongside them. So first of all, we want to make sure that the prospective mentor is ready for that journey. We get people, just by the way, from all walks of life, young and old. And I know that the Les Mills family represents a lot of people that think a lot about their well-being, and they're conscious of the opportunity to take what is and make it better. And that's just the kind of mentor we're looking for, is somebody that's thinking a little bit about life and reflecting on their life and how they can be everything, or maximize their potential, let's put it that way. That's a beautiful place to start. But we want to make sure that they're ready from a time perspective, from a life stage perspective, mindset, all these sorts of things. So we have really good chats at the front end to determine, is this right for you? Is it the right time? We also carefully match that mentor with a young person where there's good alignment around interests and personality fit. So if the volunteer mentor is a little quiet and maybe they enjoy reading books and doing crafts, we'll match them with a young person of similar interests. If they like getting out and kicking the ball around or going for a run, we also make that alignment, really carefully, so that there's a really good fit. And also geographically that there's a good fit. They live in a local community together. They don't drive too far. to get to that young person. And then on that journey, across that year, and when I say a year, it's a year minimum, but often these relationships go for well beyond that first year. Some journey for the last one that just closed her Upside was 7 years old. Imagine journeying with a young person for that long. It just becomes an incredible, deeply meaningful relationship where they're part of your family, really. So we have regular check-ins with our mentors. We provide lots of amazing training and professional development. We have fun events through the year as well to really sort of provide that sense of community around them, so they get to meet other mentors, support groups, so they can chat with other mentors. It's a really supported journey. And what mentors find is that not only they're seeing the young person change, which is obviously very rewarding, but they change too. And that's, I guess we call that also part of being on the upside, life on the upside, is the mentor's own well-being improves. There's a lot of research around the outcomes for mentors. And Ish, the conversations I'm having with mentors is I'm hearing things like this: my life feels more purposeful. It's the one time of the week where I feel more human, more present, because I put my phone down and I'm really present. At one of our events the other day, we run a few events through the year, this mentor, as she was leaving, turned around and said to me, "Thank you. This is the most incredible thing I've ever done in my life." She was a woman in her 50s, so she's had a lot of life behind her, amazing things I'm sure she's done in her lifetime. But for her, there was something changing in her, giving her that great sense of purpose and happiness and joy coming out of that relationship.
I think the interesting thing when you talk about how much the mentors get from it, that it's a huge paradox that I've experienced, and I don't quite know how to solve it. It doesn't need to be solved, but I'd like to solve it. So every time I do something for another person, whether it's give them time, give them money, give them experiences or opportunities, I'm doing that because I want to share from the abundance, I want to bless them, I want to help them, it's the right thing to do. And it always ends up feeling like I get more from it than they do, because I get so much of a buzz to be able to give and to be able to share some wisdom. And so then I go, oh, but I'm still on the wrong end of this bargain. I'm still winning here. So I need to find more people to give to, and then you do more. And
that is gorgeous.
but it's a paradox, right? Where it doesn't matter how much you try and be selfless about it, when it's the right thing to do, it ends up filling your cup as well. And I love it when there are opportunities for people in a relatively low front end involvement way to do good in the hood. I haven't told you this, Ish, because I've only just remembered now. When I first moved to Christchurch in the early days, I was just like, I've got to volunteer, I've got to do more. And I thought, but it needs to be something that's like, as Jenny's identifying, it needs to be something that is of some interest or kind of relates to some skills that I have. Like, how can I best serve? And I discovered there was this group that was teaching people to read. So adults who'd missed out on education, and you could teach them. I was like, this is me. I'm a reader. I'm a brain box. I would love to help some adults have literacy. And my grandfather, my mum's father, couldn't read very well, and she didn't know that until as she got older she realised that when he read the paper in the morning he was primarily looking at the pictures. So he was one of 16, and he was just of that generation that you could get missed. Anyway, so I rocked up to this learn how to become a teach someone to read tutor. I thought, this is me. And you had to do something like a 16-week course before you were qualified. No, but I don't really actually have a passion for that anymore. Like, when am I going to fit that in? So the idea that you have some screening and stuff, but you're just asking people to just be with a young person, just hang out, be a good person around them and for them and with them. It's a reasonably low bar if you're a good person to start with. And I think that's great that there's something accessible about it.
You have totally nailed it. Look, I think we underrate the value of play. I heard a relationship expert say the other day that fun is therapy as much as therapy is therapy. And I thought that applies beautifully to the Upside Youth Mentoring model, because it is about having fun with your young person, having a laugh. It's, going to do a fun thing together. And that's the other thing, actually, why the mentors are reporting, hey, my life feels like so much more enriched through this journey, is they actually get to play again. It's so good for the soul, and it's not complex. These are the things that actually bring healing to people's lives: play, laughter, simply holding space, as we say, being very present together, being real, just sharing life together, doing life stuff, even if it's going to the supermarket together and saying, hey, I need to find some beans, let's find the best beans. I don't know what it might be for each individual, but having fun of just doing life together. As I say, it's 2 hours a week, and it's significant what happens through that time. And it's probably worth sharing. Our vision statement is quite beautiful. It's creating a world of belonging. And I think that's where the magic happens. When people feel that sense of belonging, especially for these young people that have perhaps had a little bit of turbulence in their life, they might feel disconnected, isolated, very lonely. Certainly a number of them have mental health challenges. That sense of belonging is that I'm okay, somebody believes in me, releases all kinds of potential. I mean, it does in us too, doesn't it? When people believe in us and they sort of affirm us on a regular basis. And what's happening through that process, and this has been verified by independent research of the Upside program, is that these young people are now engaging in their schooling more. And we know truancy is a terrible problem in New Zealand post-COVID. There's only 51% turning up to school regularly. So these kids are now turning up to school more. They're more engaged in their learning. They're getting a higher education, like they're getting better qualifications. Their physical and mental health improves. And I know for the Les Mills community, physical health is super important. We've got examples where that's been really inspired in a young person. They've got a lot more active, and I can tell you a story about that shortly. But so physical and mental health improves. They're less likely to experience violence and addiction in their life, less likely to be removed from the home, less likely to offend. And we also know that the family's stress levels reduce and the mental zone well-being improves. So there's a win-win-win going on all around that, and it's all rooted in that deep sense of belonging that's just created over time from doing life together and doing it well.
How have you found the families respond to, a mentor coming in and spending time with their child and probably having some connection with the family? How does that kind of piece of the puzzle fit together?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's worth mentioning that the families are definitely very involved in what we're doing. So the young people that are referred to us, and our referrals come from schools who identify a young person that really benefit from having this positive role model in their life. We sit down and interview the young person and make sure they are also ready for the journey, but we sit with the family as well and make sure that they're really supportive, that they're ready to get behind this. And we check in regularly with the family, so it's very much a journey for the family and the young person. And often the mentor is considered part of the whānau, as they journey on. They just become really quite close, which is beautiful. And the parents are often inspired, often they're single parents, to think about things from a different angle, learn new parenting skills just by watching how that mentor interacts with their child and other things. So it's quite lovely. But there's a really nice example of that, actually. One of the young boys that we mentor, his name's Isaiah, and his parents are Samoan, lovely Samoan family, quite skeptical about the mentoring journey, but they were ready enough to go on the journey and support Isaiah through that. So he presented with depression and anxiety. He really lacked confidence. And one of the things that was affecting his life was health, to be honest. He wasn't eating well, lots of junk food, wasn't moving. So his mentor, who was quite a fit person, really believed in the power of caring for your physical health to empower your life. He got this young man out doing bushwalks. They started going to Subway and Peter Pit and getting sushi instead of going to Mickey D's, McDonald's. And they made a plan together to complete a 5K run. And they did it. And this was just a miracle, for Isaiah, like going from complete inertia, just sitting on the couch on the device. to now being a kid that thinks my body works for me. I can set quite a bold goal and I can do it. And as a result, he's sleeping better. He's feeling a lot healthier. He's now a school leader. So this kid that was really quite withdrawn, really lacking confidence, is now stepping up as a school leader, and the other kids are looking up to him. Really amazing. So the school is seeing this. They love what's happened. And the parents who were really skeptical at the start are just so pumped about what's happened to the young child and the direction he's going. And they speak really highly about the Upside Youth Mentoring Program now.
We'll be right back.
If there was one skill that could double your income, advance your career, and increase your ability to influence, it is the skill of presenting. Whether it's on stage, in the boardroom, or at a job interview, the 30-minute presenter program will help take you to the next level. So check out our Instagram page, click the link in the bio, and get started on the 30-minute presenter program. I mean, we do a lot in the career development focus on this podcast and looking at skills that set people up for careers. And something like this really is one of those things that you could be learning a skill of mentoring and having someone to work with. Not that we should be doing this for our CV, but, it's the opportunities that get presented to us when we're younger that suddenly when you're going for those jobs and you can refer to things that you've done, or you've learnt some skills, or you've had some success, that when you get into your career, suddenly you've already got 3 or 4 steps ahead of the person that's just entering out of uni that hasn't really got any of those practical skills. So, great entry-level opportunity to get into something as well, just to develop some life skills.
Oh, that's a brilliant point, Ish. And look, what employers are looking more for now than they ever have is those soft skills. People can present with an amazing technical skill set. They may have gone through university, done training in something or another, but unless they've got the soft skills to run alongside practical skill set, they'll never reach their potential in the workplace. But at worst, they can be quite destructive in some ways if you don't sort of understand the nuance of how people tick and how to invest your life into the well-being of others and seek the best for them. And so somebody that is stepping up to be a volunteer mentor, as you say, is growing their own skill set around relationship skills, dynamics. They're often engaging with different cultures because, frequently we have people of different cultures being matched together. And so there's a cultural exchange that goes on, and that builds richness and understanding, doesn't it? Yeah. They're becoming integrated into the life of a family that might live a very different life to them, perhaps economically, or, their jobs might be entirely different or whatever, their personalities. And so there's an opportunity to learn and grow. And I think that's just magic. In my mind, healthy community and healthy workplaces, to be honest, are all about that rich tapestry of relationship. And as our lives are woven together in healthy ways, we become more resilient as individuals and as little communities, whether that's a work community or the Les Mills community, for example, or the communities we live in. Is social capital, they call it, is tremendously important for well-being of individuals and society as a whole. So you're right on the money with that one, Ish. It's good for people, and it's a wonderful thing to demonstrate on a CV that you've invested your life in somebody else, because people think very highly of that.
What are some of the challenges of being a CEO of a not-for-profit, in a charity that works with vulnerable people and vulnerable kids? It must be quite different to running a company and making money for shareholders and everything that comes from that side of things. So what have you learned, and what have been some of the challenges?
Wow, that's a great question. In the first instance, you need to role model, in crude terms, what you're selling. We're not selling anything, but we are advocating for and promoting healthy relationships and community and bringing people together that can journey together and enable a greater flourishing for both of them, to be fair, especially for the young person experiencing hardship. Mm-hmm. But in the first instance, as a CEO, I want to see our team flourishing. So that's my first consideration is, am I leading with integrity? Am I leading with a people-first posture? Do we have practices and principles and values that affirm and support people's development, sense of safety and belonging. It goes back to our vision of creating this world of belonging. It starts with us, actually. We have a really amazing team at Upside. So I'm grateful that I inherited a team a couple of years ago that was wonderful and has only got better over time, actually, as other people have come into the frame. So it's been a delight to be part of this team. But in terms of the difference between not-for-profit, the charitable sector, and the profit sector, I think everybody is after purpose these days, even more so than they ever have, whether they're in a for-profit or a not-for-profit organisation. And I think as CEOs, in whatever context we're in, the more we can connect people into that sense of purpose, the more we can enable flourishing, both for our team and for those that we serve, whether that's in a commercial sense or in the sense we're not selling stuff. We are enabling and fostering and scaffolding really beautiful relationships. So it's all about purpose. And I don't know, to be fair, that it's wildly different. I mean, there's fairly marked differences between the charitable sector and the for-profit sector. I get that. But we're humans, whether we turn up in a for-profit or a not-for-profit space, and how we treat one another and how we seek to serve others for their best outcomes, I think is paramount wherever we are. But I will add, it's a difficult funding environment for charities at the moment. So as life has become a bit financially stressful for individuals, for households, it's certainly the same for charities. There's a knock-on effect of this economic downturn. And we're having to work a lot harder to get funding in the door than we did this time last year, for example. And we're not alone in that. Most of the charities are experiencing that. And so to that extent, I'll drop into conversation. We also really value people donating to Upside, whether it's 10 or 20 bucks a month, or if they've got $1,000 in their back pocket, that's lovely too. It's little bits or big bits together make quite a difference.
Jenny, I would love to. But the downside of giving to Upside is I'll still just feel better. And it'll still just be about me.
That's hilarious. You're an interesting soul, because you're identifying this kickback, which is so beautiful in life. And it's called the virtuous cycle.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know if folks that are listening have ever been in a position where they've taught somebody else a skill. And you mentioned this before when you're talking about reading, Sacha. And there's this gorgeous model called the Circle of Courage. And one of the first principles of that model, it's talking about the 4 needs of a young person. The first thing that they need is belonging and identity. The second thing is generosity to others, which is sort of what we're talking about. And then achievement and competence. And the final one is influence and responsibility. They're going to that achievement and competence piece. You know, if you've taught somebody how to learn how to play the guitar, or you've show them how to bake a cake or something, there's actually this lovely reward, this lovely kickback of, oh, hey, I just enabled. I saw the joy in somebody else's face as they thought, I can do this. I'm capable. And that's wonderfully enriching for us as humans to pass something on, to give something back in that way.
And you are totally legitimately allowed to say to me, look, I don't care how you feel, just give the money. just how you feel is irrelevant. If you feel better, if you feel worse, if you feel richer, if you feel poorer, it feels like a you problem, honey. Just put the money over here. So don't let my angst be a reason for anybody not to give. You might have seen that thing that goes around for school fundraisers, because I was one of these parents where they go, you can sell the chocolate fish, you can donate your time, and they were trying to be really sensitive to all the different needs. So if families weren't in paid employment, they were just working really hard at home, then they could volunteer their time. There was one right down the bottom that says, I'll give you $500 and don't ask me for anything ever again. I'm not selling your fish, I'm not buying your shampoo, I'm not making your sausages. And I actually thought it was really great, because it just gave people a whole range of things that says, here's how you can contribute. So what I love about what you're doing at Upside is, yes, you welcome donations for people who have got some spare cash to flow around, but maybe what you've got is some spare time, and you can volunteer and commit in that way. And I think, the challenge for us all is to think about how much time we spend. And Ish, it's a risk for you and me because we're, so much of this podcast is about get better, improve yourself. So you can end up with a really clear focus on yourself. We're always talking about self-awareness, but you can become self-focused, and it's a really lovely challenge to go, what have you done for anyone else lately? And what are you doing to not just make yourself a better person who's contributing to the world, but actually what are you doing to make the world a better place? And I think it's a lovely challenge to have.
Oh, that's beautifully said, and a wonderful challenge. What I would love to see is greater awareness that when you give to others, your life improves. Our observation, our experience, the research backs that up. Our research from independent, universities or Impact Lab, looked into our program. So they verify that. But beyond that, there's global research on the benefits of just stepping out of your comfort zone, having that more meaningful conversation, deepening those relationships, giving back to community, where as you're becoming more selfless, in fact, your life becomes so much richer. So it's a bit counterintuitive to the way society is wired, where we sense we need to take more in, we need to access more supports for ourselves, we need to just be more self-focused because the world is, let's be honest, a really challenging place. It's complex, it's distracting, it's troubling, global news, local news, just relationship tensions in our own life, all sorts of things are really, really exhausting. And this wonderful revelation that, in fact, if you lighten up a bit on focusing on yourself and actually pivot and turn to others, your life will become more enjoyable, happier, and more meaningful and more purposeful. That's a very cool story to tell.
Yeah. And that sounds like a great way to wrap up the podcast with those words. So if you are interested in doing Upside Youth Mentoring, what's the best way to get in touch with the charity?
Yeah, fantastic. So I think probably calling our program manager would be the simplest, easiest way, or texting him. I'll give you a phone number. It's 021 462 830. That's 021 462 830. His name is Donald. Or you can simply go to our website, which is upside.org.nz. That's upside.org.nz. You'll find your way there to the little link that talks about becoming a mentor. You don't have to sign your life away. Just let us know who you are, and we'll have a coffee. We'll sit down and tell you a bit more about it. We can answer any questions you might have. We can see if the fit is right. And look, magical things could happen out of that. So I encourage people, don't be backward in coming forward. You might be the difference between a young person realizing their gorgeous potential and having a beautiful future or not. So we need you. We need more mentors, and we'd be absolutely thrilled to hear from you.
So an awesome challenge there. If you've thought about mentoring, if you're wanting to develop your career, your skill set, giving back, this is a great way to do it. It doesn't have to be financial, but if you've got some money and you want to make it rain, make it rain. But if you have got some time, then get out and have a chat to the team at Upside Youth Mentoring. That was awesome. Thank you so much, Jenny, for your time today.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Great to see you again.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely.